All right, chapter 10, tenure, dismissal, and due process. The tenure contract is designed primarily to provide a measure of security for teachers and to ensure that they are protected from arbitrary and I don't even know how to capricious
Capricious.
treatment by school authorities, giving us a little bit of protection. Any teacher who earns tenure or continuing service status also acquires a property right for legitimate claim to the teaching position. Once a property right is acquired, the teacher may only be dismissed for cause, and then we'll go into a little bit of cause later into the presentation. And then full due process provisions must be applied.
Acquisition of tenure. In a number of states, tenure may only be attained after the teacher has successfully completed 3 successive years during the probationary period and receives an offer for reemployment for the succeeding year. So I think most states, I'm pretty sure that's even Nebraska, 3 years is pretty common.
Yeah.
The probationary period is one in which the non-tenured teacher is seeking tenure. During the probationary period, a teacher may be non-renewed at the end of the contract year without cause or dismissed during the year with cause. In the case of the latter, the teacher must be afforded full due process rights. So if the teacher's let go during the year, then they have to have the full due process.
So just so I'm thinking about this appropriately, essentially, you can be let go during the probation period for any reason, right? But after you get tenure, then there has to be a reason or a breach in protocol or something for you to lose that position. Is that accurate?
Yep. Yep.
In some non-tenured statuses involved no expectations for employment beyond the contracted year, no right to be provided reason for oh my goodness gracious, no right for provided reason for non-renewal, no right to due process, no hearing. So when you're not tenured at the end of the year, you might not be offered a contract. You don't need a reason behind that. Going into the next slide. Non-renewal. So the primary reason due process does not apply to the prohibitionary status centers around a limited property interest. During the probationary period, the teacher typically is offered a one-year contract, which is renewable each year if the school board elects to do so. So like I talked about in the last slide.
Okay. So the probationary teacher then only has a property right for the duration of that year. So they're only guaranteed that job for that year or that position for that year. And when the contract period ends each year, the teacher loses the right to that position because both the teacher and the district have met contractual obligations to each other. Due process and cause are necessary only if there is evidence that a property interest continues to exist. A property interest does not exist if no legal contract is in force.
I've always been curious if they would ever go to more than a one-year contract with the teacher shortage. I don't know if that would actually help or not, but I've always been curious.
Well, I don't know for sure, but I think that we hired some teachers from the Philippines and did contracts with them. And I want to say those were 3-year contracts. I don't know exactly. Don't ask me all the questions on that and how that all works because I don't know. But I'm pretty sure they signed a 3-year contract.
I was going to say, I think our district was talking about that, extending the contract and then having some additional like benefits or something if you have a longer contract. I know they also bumped up when they send out the contracts for us to sign so that they have more time to look into teachers if they need to or getting new teachers.
Ours always come out the very first day they're allowed to.
Yeah.
All right, dismissal for cause. Tenure laws include grounds for dismissal in virtually all states. While there are variations among states, these grounds normally include incompetency, insubordination, immorality, neglect of duty, justifiable decrease in the number of teaching positions, or financial exigency, and a statement indicating other good and just cause. And then that first is incompetency. One of the more frequently used grounds for dismissal involves charges of incompetency. Most commonly, incompetency refers to inefficiency, the lack of a skill, inadequate knowledge of the subject matter, inability or unwillingness to teach the curricula, failure to work effectively with colleagues and parents, failure to maintain discipline, and mismanagement of the classroom, and additional deficiencies. I think that's why classroom management is so largely pushed in many schools.
The next one, insubordination, is generally viewed as the willful failure in inability to obey a reasonable and valid administrative directive. In most cases, there is a discernible pattern in the teacher's behavior which reveals that the teacher has been insubordinate. However, there are other instances in which one serious violation may form the basis for charges of insubordination. Immorality. Immorality is cited in relevant state statutes as grounds for dismissal and involves conduct that violates the ethics of a particular community. Some state laws refer to immorality as unfitness to teach or behavior which sets a poor example for students and violates moral integrity.
Criminal activity. So charges of criminal activity committed by public school teachers will normally result in dismissal based on the general unfitness, immorality, and unprofessional conduct. Depending on the severity and specifics of the criminal act, revocation of the teaching certificate also may be appropriate, especially in cases where a conviction occurs. In a number of states, conviction of felony or crime or morale will form defensible grounds for the revocation of the teacher's certificate. In other instances, a series of convictions or misdemeanors may also prove sufficient to remove a teacher from the employment position and revoke the teaching certificate.
Final exigency. Ooh, cannot
It's a
speak.
tough word.
This occurs when the district faces a reduction in its budget, which results in getting rid of certain employment positions. Positions may also be abolished when the district encounters reduction in student enrollment. Neglect of duty occurs when a teacher fails to execute assigned duties. Neglect may be intentional or unintentional based on ineffective performance.
The courts will generally support districts that demonstrate the need to reduce their teaching force, commonly called reduction in force, when there is evidence that a legitimate financial problem exists, and the substantive and procedural due process is provided. I think there was a school in our area that has actually been going through that. And good or just cause. Just cause is designed to provide the district broader latitude in dismissing teachers for causes not specifically identified in state statutes. It is not designed to allow the district to dismiss a teacher for personal, political, arbitrary, or capricious reasons.
Collective bargaining has grown in popularity and appeal in public education. Although it has always provoked controversy, many educators view collective bargaining as a mechanism to achieve a greater role in management and operation of public schools. Since many of the issues involving collective bargaining center around rights of employees, terms and conditions of employment, it is in its very nature sometimes evokes conflict and adversarial relationships between school boards and union representatives.
Most states currently permit some form of bargaining between teachers and school boards, and these agreements may vary from required bargaining to some form of meet and confer provisions.
So is this, I feel like this is specifically talking about like negotiations in which don't you have to be part of the union to have any bargaining, any,
You want your voice to be heard. Or if you
yes,
want your
any
opinion to be
stake
heard.
in the bargaining, because I believe if as a union, you don't have, I think it's got to be 50% of teachers in your union, then the school board does not have to negotiate with you.
Something along those lines. I was kind of surprised that the PowerPoint didn't discuss breach of contract.
Yeah,
But
it was kind of
let's-
short, just saying like if they don't, yeah. I think the contracts I feel like anymore are very they kind of cover themselves. Like they even put that line in there, like and extra duties. So
Yeah.
the schools make sure they're gonna get you in any way.
Duties as assigned.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
Assigned.
That's how I got stuck with driver's ed.